Hello, I'm John Wickersham, and in the last two of these 3 videos we've talked about caravan and motorhome windows and how to look after them and keep them clean. Now in this 3rd and final video I want to talk about how you can deal with damage. One of the obvious ways of creating damage occurs when people put covers over their caravan or motorhome. Now, it's a good idea to fit a cover sometimes, but you must always make sure that prior to putting the cover in place, your caravan or motorhome is thoroughly clean. You see, if it isn't, it only takes a little bit of dust lying on the surface of the window and then the cover on top to create a bad situation. Normally during a storage period the wind will blow, and if the wind blows the cover and it rubs against a fine layer of dust, it's rather like being an abrasive paper, and it can lead to scratch marks on the surface. Another thing that people sometimes do in order to overcome that is to actually put a piece of kitchen film, of cling film, all over the surface to add protection. Whatever you do, don't do that. It sounds good, but the reality is there's a chemical in the sticky part of the material which reacts with the acrylic plastic of the window. And sometime down the line, after you've removed it, little cracks appear. And then there is no way to produce an answer. Now look, some forms of damage are really unavoidable. Much that I like blackberry and apple pudding, I don't like blackberry brambles. And when I meet an oncoming caravan or an oncoming motorhome in one of those little narrow lanes in the West Country, and we both have to pull over to the side, if there are brambles in the hedgerow, they're going to leave deep score marks in the surface of the acrylic. Now the manufacturers say never use anything abrasive on one of these windows. Yes, that's right in a sense, until you get to the point of deep scratches. And there are various companies that produce products to get rid of these. And I've seen demonstrations and I've been amazed how deeply scored surfaces can be improved and renovated. There is a firm that for years has specialised with boats called Caravan. And Caravan launched one of its boat window compounds to caravanners. And it was called Caravan, and probably still is called Caravan and Motorhome Pride. This is how it operates. You start with an abrasive paper, a wet and dry paper of 1200 grade. You need it on a block, and you can buy little blocks in various sizes where the paper slots in and goes around the surface. You can even buy tiny little blocks or cut one of these up so that you have a section perhaps the size of a matchbox. Then you need a spray can, so that you can, a garden one, so that you can just put water onto the surface. You then proceed to use this, constantly adding the water all over the scratch. And one of the tips is don't go round and round in circles, because if you do get a little bit of grit trapped, it'll make circular indentations. But keep changing the paper and go one way and then go the other way. And if a scratch appears, you begin to see which way and which piece of paper was the culprit and caused that extra scratch. So don't go in circles, go back to front. And keep adding the water, because that keeps the surface cool. It also acts as a lubricant, and it helps any compound that you later add. And Caravan Pride is the compound that then takes it further and further down the grade, so that it's a very, very mild cutting compound. It's slow, it's tedious, and the specialists would use an electric rotary mop. Now, of course, you could say, look, I've got an electric drill. But invariably, the speed of electric drillers is too fast, creates the heat and causes damage. They have a special rotating mop that goes at a slow speed. Now, if you do have access to one of those and you get your Foraker Caravan or motorhome pried and you apply it as a paste, just make sure that you use this constantly on the rotary mop, because if you have a lot of water in the sponge, first of all, it protects the sponge itself from early deterioration. It also stops the Foraker compound getting drawn in right into the heart of the sponge. And once again, it stops heat and it helps lubricate the surface. It's a fascinating task, and I do know that you can, if you know what you're doing, get rid of deep scratches. And in my manuals, the Caravan manual and the motorhome manual, I have a series of sequence photographs showing an expert doing this. I've never had to do it. The only thing I've had to do is to replace a piece of glass, acrylic pane, completely. I mentioned in the first video that typically the panels themselves are suspended from the top. Now, this is a framed window, but it's no different from the unframed types that we were looking at earlier. To start with, you have to remove any of the fittings on the window itself. And in the case of this one, and yes, of course, I've prepared it already, it's a fixed one. This isn't an opening pane. It's one made by Seitz, S-E-I-T-Z, and it's the type of window often fitted on motorhomes, but on some caravans too. So in this particular instance, I'm removing the fittings that could have been the opening fittings and the telescopic arms, but it's actually just the retaining fittings, because this is normally fixed. And once those have been removed, the window now opens in the usual way, and by taking it through to the limit, it detaches itself from the aluminium at the top. And sometimes that's necessary if you need to replace a complete pane. You may recall that I said in the earlier video that this was on one of my caravans, and it was a stone chip that caused a big break here. It took a long time, as I explained earlier, to get a replacement. And I want to just say a few things about obtaining replacements. Of course, you can order from a dealer, but you may have to wait 5 or 6 weeks. And sometimes they won't be able to get a replacement pane. These are straightforward because Seitz S4 windows have been manufactured a long time, and I'm sure will continue to be manufactured a long time. But some are funny shapes. The caravan industry loves to put funny shaped windows, unusual shaped windows. My word, I mean, this is a case in point, isn't it? With its section here, its pointy bit here. And unfortunately, some manufacturers cease production. Manufacturers like Avondale are no longer producing caravans or motorhomes. What a shame. So you can't get spares from them. Now, you might be able to go to a caravan breaker's yard, but there's also a firm in Grimsby which buys up surplus windows from caravan and motorhome manufacturers at the end of the year when they change their models over. And they sell on those surplus windows. They're brand new, so they're rather better than the ones at a breaker, and that's one place to go, Magnum Caravan Surplus in Grimsby, where you can often find the very one that you want. So there are various strategies to adopt, but let's say that you can't even get a replacement that way. Now, I've never been to this firm, and they've got a funny name. But in a town called Shelf near Halifax, there is a company that used to make exhausts. They were called ECO, Exhaust Ejector Company. I'm often on the telephone to them because they make windows to your personal requirements. They make Caravan motorhome windows identically if you can send a little piece of the broken one. And then they can check the colour tint, because that is clear and this one has a slight darkened colour, a slight darkened brown. And they can make a mix of acrylic which matches this. And if you've got the dimensions of the aperture, they will make a replica for you. And I'm told that even in the height of the season, when everybody's out caravanning and some are breaking their windows, they have a turnaround time of 28 days, which is far, far quicker than some of the windows that are ordered through a dealer's. So there is a lot to learn. Some of this goes on to my website, wikiworld.co.uk, and of course there's the Haynes manuals. Now there are some people, of course, who want to take this one step further. They don't just want to replace a window, but they want to fit a window. They're the sort of people who want to convert an old van and make their own little camper van. Well, how to fit one of these from scratch is naturally in Build Your Own Motor Caravan, and I commend that as a possible place for you to look. So there we are, windows. Complicated things, costly things, and you need to know how you're looking after them. And then they'll serve you well. Thank you for watching my video. I have written several books on caravans and motorhomes, and you'll see some of these on the screen in front of you. To find out more, why don't you go to my website? You'll see the address on the screen, and you can click on the link below this video, which would take you straight there. When you arrive at my website, you'll see all the books on the top right. Scroll through the carousel to find the book that you might want. And when you hover over the image with your mouse, you'll see the price. Then from here, you can click to go straight through to the correct page on Amazon. Once again, thank you for watching my video.